Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at the Toypoint The Origin of the Constellation Aquarius. Thank you to Bombasby for sending this figure to me for review. If you're interested in picking up this figure after the review, I'll have a link to Bombasby down in the description. I believe this character is based off of Knights of the Zodiac, also known as Saint Seiya, and this is a third-party interpretation of that. I'm not familiar with that anime, but it looks like a pretty cool figure, so I'm looking forward to taking a look at it. Here's a look at the package. No window on this one, but we do have a nice picture of the figure here, as well as the Aquarius constellation. Also says Origin of the Constellation Aquarius and the company logo in the bottom. On the top it says Aquarius Cloths, and we have the other Zodiacs and their symbols and such. Another photo on the side of one of the, I guess, accessories we get, or at least one of the versions of the figure you can have here. Another photo over here, and then you see everything you get on the back. Here he is out of the package, and this review will be a little bit different than the others since, as you can see, there's some assembly required. We get to put all the armor on him. I did want to show real quick before we do that just what the base structure looks like and some of the articulation without the armor on. They went with hinges in a lot of places where I would have preferred ball joints. So hopefully you can see in there, there's a hinge and a big ball joint at the waist. But with those, he doesn't get a ton of range even without the armor on. A bit more range back. But not really any side to side, especially at the top. I feel like if that was a ball hinge up there, you'd get more, but it feels like just a hinge on top of another hinge, so you get a little bit of wiggle side to side and then some hinging forward and back. There's some pretty detailed colored instructions, so I'm not going to show absolutely every step of the way, but if I run into any issues, I'll show that. Even though we're assembling this, it doesn't feel hollow or flimsy like some model kits can, and some of these parts are even metal, like this chest piece is a metal piece with a little plastic part here to clip it on the chest. So it feels very sturdy. Some of the parts do take a little bit of force to get on there. We'll pop the head off. That's okay. But overall, it's going together pretty well so far. Parts like the arm armor just friction fit onto here, and they fit on there pretty snug. While some of the parts are metal, some of the other parts like this back piece are plastic, which I think is probably a good thing since you don't want him toppling backwards. He's looking pretty cool so far. I think he's definitely not meant to be displayed without the armor because the proportions are a little thin and lanky and the armor's going to bulk him out a lot. I didn't notice at first because it fell off in the package, but there's a little piece to lock this waist section together that's supposed to slide in here. But it's very tiny. Oh, this is going to be difficult to do on camera, isn't it? This is probably the most difficult part so far. Mostly because you have to hold the waist together and then slide this piece down over these two pegs, and the waist is in the way. All right, I'm gonna pop the torso off and then try to put this on. Haha. Easy peasy. And then that'll prevent it from popping apart as much. And we can put this cod piece on. and then he'll just pop back on. Hopefully. Yes. All right, here he is all assembled. And the gold chrome on this looks great. It's visually very striking. I think it's really going to stand out on a shelf. Hopefully you can tell with all the shininess, but there are a few different golds here. For like the filigree in the front here, this is a little bit more orangey, and then more yellowy here, and then a bit more like greenish for this center section. And that continues on all the gold bits. So some nice variation. There's a couple of gems back here. This back piece is plastic. The head is plastic. The shoulders are metal along with the chest and arms. But this torso section and the hands are plastic. The waist is metal, as well as the legs and the feet. The kneecaps are plastic though. He's very hefty. He's got some good weight to him. I'm glad that the feet are metal, so it gives him a sturdy base. Because if this thing takes a shelf dive, it'll be like a brick hitting the floor. I don't love the style of the face, but I also don't know that it's inaccurate to the character. I think maybe the eyes are just a little bit big for me. I know it's supposed to be like an anime style, but I don't know. Something about them I don't prefer. The joints for the elbows and the knees are metallic as well, so those show through very nicely. And really the only parts of the base figure that we can see now are the thighs and the hair and the face. I really like these calf sections. These look really cool with the big spiral on them. I think these spiral bits are actually plastic pieces glued onto the metal. So all sorts of small details. Doing my best to capture them with the bright lights and reflective glare. So aesthetically, I think he looks fantastic. Relatively easy to assemble. It didn't take too long, and the instructions are pretty good. So I don't think you'll have any issues there. I really like this big back piece. I think this is a cool design when characters have this like big circle behind their back. However, his hair does get in the way a bit. It either pushes his head down a bit due to the ponytail running into this, or this is pushed back a bit more. So you might have to fiddle with that just a little bit. I wish this ponytail section was on a little ball peg or something to help move it out of the way. Actually just realized I had the shoulders on backwards before. This big orangey piece goes on the front actually. And I would recommend just sliding these pieces on to the chest piece. I think that is a little bit safer with these small hinges and will avoid any sort of stress marks or breaking. And then you can still just slide the front of the chest on and clip it on there easily while the shoulders are attached. Okay, there's what he's supposed to look like with the shoulders on properly. And if he looked cool before, I mean, he looks even cooler now with the extra details on the front. We'll go ahead and do the articulation while he's all suited up. At the head, there's this kind of double ball hinge situation where there's a ball hinge going to side, and then this one at the top so the head can go forward and back. I feel like this could have been achieved with just a double ball peg. But with that, he can look down about this much. He's a little bit limited by these hair bits. These are on a little ball peg. Looking up, I'll have to finagle with the back piece a little bit. Can't really look up a ton due to the hair bumping into this back piece. Let's see if we can pop this off, if that'll change things. So if we pop that off, still not a ton of range looking up, but a little bit. It's mostly due to the hair clashing into things. This bottom hair piece is a floaty piece that's separate. The back piece is on a big ball peg here. So we can move that around and try to get it out of the way. The shoulders are on like a triple hinge situation where they're connected to this chest piece, and then it comes out to a hinge here, and then there's another hinge in there, and then a ball peg. Due to the weight of them being metal, they can't really stay up much. They're kind of just going to rest on the shoulder. But you can kind of move them in and out and situate them forward and back for posing the arms, so you should be able to hide the joints there. At the shoulders, these will go up about this much. And I suppose when you have his arms out at a T-pose, the shoulders are going to look a little bit weird. Yeah, let's see if we can get this in an ideal pose. Okay, so you can mostly hide it and make it look okay. This outer section of the shoulder is also on a hinge. So you can kind of get that out for like a separate layer kind of look. So I think that'll be okay. There's a butterfly joint here that's a metal ball peg inside. So that'll help the arm move just around a bit more. And with that, he'll be able to reach across the chest pretty well. You have to move the arms up a little bit and get to this like thinner section of the chest armor. But he can get his arms crossed across the chest, so that's good. So bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows that are a bit stiff, but that's probably so it can hold the weight of the metal parts. Good range there. Really only limited, if the camera would focus, really only limited by where the two pieces clash together, but very good range still. Ball hinges at the wrists, so no issues there. Hands do pop up a little easily sometimes, but I'd rather that than break the peg from being too stiff. Leaning back, he's not really limited by the armor at all, since he didn't have a ton of range without the armor on. And then forward, again, not really limited at all. I wonder if they did a hinge up at the top here to limit any wearing out that a ball joint would have, but I'm not sure. Can lean side to side on that ball joint at the waist a little bit, not a ton, and there is some rotation just at the waist. For these hip pieces, these will hinge outward. They're also on this like double hinge situation coming out to a ball peg, so you should be able to move those wherever you want, but in some angles they will show the hinges. Same with this little butt flap. and the codpiece. The hips will come out. Oh no. Oh geez, he's falling apart. All right, if you bring the hips out too far, the leg will pop off. But if you don't bring them out too far, they'll go out about this much. Not quite full splits, but still pretty good. Let me get him situated and put back together. There's a thigh swivel, double jointed knees. They don't get the most range, but still pretty decent considering the armor. And then at the feet, these will go back this much forward. And these are very stiff because the feet are all metal. This much. There is an ankle rocker and a toe hinge. I don't love the toe hinge because it's just this big cut here. But it is very stiff, so it seems like it would be useful. So I'd say pretty good articulation overall considering all the armor. I wouldn't say it's the most fun posing experience, especially with these bits that pop off at the waist, and just because he feels kind of stiff and not the most fluid to pose. But I think the aesthetics do make up for that, since he's so visually striking and will stand out on a shelf. For accessories, he'll come with some fist hands on him in the package, and then the armored fist hands. And there's a little armor piece that goes on the back of the hands, and you swap that out between all of them. But he'll also come with some relaxed hands, more open hands, and then fingers spread wide hands. For faces, we saw the neutral face that comes on him in the package, but he'll also come with one where the eyes are closed, one where he's looking off to the side and down, one where he's yelling, and one where the teeth are gritted. Objectively, I think these are painted pretty well, except for this one where he's looking off to the side or down, since one eye seems to be looking down and the other one is not. So it seems like maybe that one was printed a little off center on that eye. Otherwise, I think the others look pretty good. I think maybe this gritted teeth one's my favorite. I looked at some screenshots of Saint Seiya, Knights of the Zodiac, to see what this character looks like, and it's not really comparable because this is like a super stylized version of that with much more intricate armor. So otherwise, I think this is a pretty good spread of faces. I don't know if there's anything else in particular he would have needed. He'll also come with some soft goods and some instructions on how to put those on. These aren't in color. I think the pattern is printed well on these, but the soft goods themselves don't feel super high quality. And you can even see the bendy wire glued on the back here. So I don't love these. We'll see how it looks on the figure. But just feeling them on their own, they don't feel the greatest. So for the waist section, we pop off the back and the sides, and then loop the fabric through the little hinge there, and then clip it back on. Then for the cape, you just pop the back off, and there's a hole in the cape there that we should be able to stick through here, and then loop these sections over the front. Oh, it looks like there's also holes here to stick the shoulders through. Although they aren't cut through all the way, so you might need to pull those apart yourself. This one was cut through all the way. So there are the soft goods on him. They look alright, but I do think they look a little bit cheap, especially because the pattern's only printed on one side of the cape, so it looks kind of not great from the front. It's also very long. And there's no bendy wire running down the side of it, only on the bottom. So it's not super useful. There are bendy wires on these front bits, so that's good. You can pose those how you'd like. Although if you have them kind of windswept, you're gonna see the wire, unfortunately. Same with these pieces on the front. The final accessory also needs to be assembled, and we'll need to disassemble the armor. So first, on the shoulders here, there's a ball peg holding this outer shoulder bit on. So we can just pop that off. And then the shoulders will pop onto this little display base. And those align nicely. And we're gonna have this little inner frame situation for the statue. All these inner frame pieces are gonna be plastic. And just like the figure itself, we're just gonna pop all the pieces onto this. I guess it would be nice if you had 2 sets of armor, but then that would increase the cost by a ton. I'm assuming this little statue situation is where he gets his powers from. The arms and legs for this aren't articulated, they just come sculpted in a position. But there are pegs at the biceps where you can put the bicep armor on there, as well as at the hands. The hand pegs are a bit stiff though, so be careful with those. And it's a pretty snug fit onto here. All the pegs are keyed for this statue, so you can get them back on the correct way. The legs are going to be the same situation, but the feet are easier to pull off because they have this orange plastic. I think the hands were hard to pull off because they were painted. The pegs for them, at least. We just have to remember not to forget the bits on the back of the hands or the kneecaps. Alright, I've got this assembled. Now we can put this giant water piece in the base. I did need a bit of heat to connect the water pieces, so I did that off camera. I just heated up this outer section. This is also keyed. And the water looks really nice. It's not like a brittle plastic, so it has a little bit of like a haze to it, but it's still clear enough that it looks like water. I think it looks really nice. And then to put this statue on here, there's a little peg on the bottom that will correspond with this peg. And we also have to line up this vase to go in here. Alright, I picked the water in the vase first, and now I'll try to align the hole in the bottom. Oop. Am I doing this right? I think he's supposed to be turned this way. Yeah. Yeah, the arm's supposed to poke through here. That makes more sense. Oh! Trying to figure out the right position to get this hip armor next to the water. I need to look at a picture and see how they have it. Okay, there it is. It needs to be like kicked forward some along this thigh. Like that. And this looks really cool. I almost like this better than the figure, just because it's all gold and has the cool water feature. It's just a really cool little statue. I wish it was articulated though. You can move the little armor bits around a little bit, but for the most part, it's just going to look like this. I think that looks fantastic. I see what I did wrong. There are specific thigh pieces that are sculpted for this. And they should fit on here better. Yep. I was just bad at reading the instructions. For sizing comparisons, Aquarius is standing at about 7.5 inches tall to the top of the head and closer to 8 3/4 to the top of his back decoration thing. So he's got some pretty good size to him, probably won't scale with a lot of anime figures. Here he is with the Medi Toys Necromancer and Romeki Cal Algar. Here he is with the Reveltech One Punch Man and Lado Toys Leah. And here he is with an SH Figuarts Naruto and Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Nightcrawler. So overall, I think if you like Saint Seiya or Knights of the Zodiac, you'll find some enjoyment in this figure. I think the metal pieces in particular are really well done. It's very visually striking and it's going to look great on a shelf. I don't think it's the most fun to play with though. I tend to prefer a figure that's fun to pick up and play with on my desk throughout the day. And I don't think this is really that. It's more just a cool display piece, I would say. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. I don't have any big complaints. I suppose my one complaint could be that some of the little hinges feel a bit delicate for snapping on and off the metal. And I think the soft goods could be a bit better. Otherwise, there are no issues with the chrome gold all over this. The statue thing's really cool. I like the water effect. It has a nice flow to it. So I think this one's pretty neat. Let me know what you think in the comments though. Is this an anime you're into, or is this just a cool figure that you might be interested in? Again, if you want to pick this up, I'll have a link to Bombasby in the description. I hope this video was enjoyable and helped you decide if you want to pick this up. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. Remember to be kind to yourself and others, and I'll see you next time.